I already know what you're thinking. Oh geez, another 12-year-old talking about some fan-made anti-piracy screen. Well, this is the real deal. None of this is all fake. All of the screenshots were taken with an old Polaroid I've had for roughly 15 years. Allow me to introduce myself. My name's Andrew. I'm a pretty big Nintendo fan. If you talk to one of my friends, they'll mention at least one thing related to Nintendo and say how much I love and respect the franchise. Well, tonight I'm going to share with you my experience with none other than the recent Legend of Zelda game, Skyward Sword. So I went to the previous E3 that showcased a trailer for the game. I was very obviously hyped to the point where I couldn't sleep that night, hoping that time would fast forward to November 18th of 2011. On the day of the game's release, money was pretty tight in my family at the moment, so I couldn't afford it at the time. Plus, my mom had grounded me for that week and took away my allowance until my punishment was over. So I was out on a walk in the city one day, the day before my punishment would be over, and my mom would give me my long-awaited allowance that she promised to give me once I had done my time, no less. One of the upcoming sidewalks was closed for construction, so I had to take the alleyway home. As I was walking down, I saw a man handing out, get this, free copies of Skyward Sword. I had walked up to him without saying anything. He handed me a copy. I kindly said thanks before walking away. It was then that a cop stopped me in my tracks and asked if I had seen a guy selling fraudulent Nintendo games in my area. I simply told him no and that I was heading home from the local GameStop after buying my game. He believed me and let me go, which was a huge sigh of relief for me on my end. So I casually headed home and booted up my Wii. The game started up as normal, prompting the Wii Motion Plus accessory, which I had from Wii Sports Resort. I started up my profile and got to experience a pretty good portion of the game. But before I could go through the Gate of Time, I had to defeat the Imprisoned for a second time. I think you have to defeat it for a total of 3 times. But I'd ask you comment how it was actually supposed to happen, because after my experience, I flat out refuse to play Skyward Sword ever again. At least for a little while. So the cutscene went on as normal, that is up until the end, where Groose said that he'd prepare his latest contraption, the Groosinator, and use it in battle. Just as he left the temple to head to the sealed grounds, the old one then turned to me and said, "I really thought I could trust you, Link." Which then cut to me running out once again. Before I jumped off the ledge, I was given a prompt that Fi wanted to speak to me. I then pressed my down key on the Wii remote, and she then floats out of my sword. "Master Link, it seems as though you've committed a crime," Fi said. I was then given 2 options, the left being, "Yes, and I apologize," and the right being, "No, I didn't." I chose the second one. "I beg to differ. It has come to my attention that you've pirated a copy of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. What do you have to say for yourself?" I was greeted with 2 more options, those being, "Turn me in," or "You've got the wrong guy." Once again, I chose the second one since I still believed I had an actual copy. Fi's eyes then turned a bright red and her body slowly cloaked in the blackest shade of black I've ever seen. And no, I'm not over-exaggerating. We then get a zoom-in shot of her face, and the sky faded to a grim black with red clouds. "You are not the chosen hero," she said, suddenly taking my sword and every single other weapon I had on hand. "Goodbye, Link." She then flew high in the sky before colliding with the Imprisoned, thus teaming up with a new boss, the Corrupted. I, a now defenseless Link, go to the bottom of the sealed grounds, hoping I'd be able to defeat the duo without issue. Of course, I was wrong. Fi then took notice and began to breathe a line of fire. It only took away 2 hearts since I'm pretty good at dodging in the game. Groose then called from above and I was given the option, "Help me," which I frantically chose. Groose laughed for a moment before looking back down at my helplessness. "I don't know, Link. You did pirate this game. How should I return the favor?" "Oh, I know. Time to taste defeat, wimp." He then began to catapult giant bombs at me. I was unable to dodge them since they were pretty powerful. Soon the Imprisoned made his way up to the temple, Fi carrying now my half-dead body. I was on the ground, unable to get up. You know, Link, just before Big Ugly escaped from that seal again, there was something I wanted to tell you, Groose smiled. Vi then interjected as he continued to laugh in the background. You never really were the chosen hero, Link. We wanted you to get a taste of what you could experience if you had bought an authentic copy of the game. The music began to grow distorted, and Fi gave the creepiest smile I've ever seen next to Midna's. You see, I was the hero of the story all along, just like I had imagined it, Groose boasted, panning to Link's shocked face. The only reason I came down here with you is to follow Fi's plan to end your adventure. At least until you purchase the real deal. Then you could see more of me, he chuckled. By the way, Fi, do you think you could hand me those thingamabobs our criminal was carrying around with him this whole time? Fi then handed Groose the Master Sword, and all I had collected throughout my duration of the playtime. This may hurt a bit, the old one chuckled. Oh, but it'll all be worth it in the end, and we can watch Groose succeed where Link couldn't, Fi complimented. Groose then raised his sword as if he was going to stab me, but just as he did, the screen went to black. I expected a game over screen to appear at first, but that didn't happen just yet. Zelda came on screen with tears in her eyes. She sobbed for a few seconds before locking eyes with me. How could you, Link? We trusted you from saving us from the darkness that has flooded the world. I wish I wasn't so blind, she sobbed once more. I should have let Groose win the wing ceremony that day, not you. You never cared about your stupid loft wing. I knew you never took care of it behind closed doors. Why do you think it was called a crimson loft wing to begin with? Which gave me a moment to connect the dots. She basically accused me, or Link in this case, of abusing a loft wing. Please think before pirating a copy of a licensed video game. Don't come back until you have a legal copy of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. She then walked off screen before it then gave me a game over screen. I was given two options that were either delete save file or report the software to Nintendo. I chose the first, expecting this nightmare to be over. Once again, no. I was greeted to Fi once more, but she was back to her normal self. Oh, what a relief. That cutscene was terrifying to watch. She then stated the following. The following copy has been detected as pirated software. Please report the copy to Nintendo or refer to your instruction booklet for further details. I tried skipping past the text, but it kept repeating until I had to turn off my Wii. I tried restarting it once more. My save file's still intact, despite me clearly asking to delete it. I booted up only to receive that darned cutscene with Fi being left on. God fucking damn it, I yelled before unplugging the Wii. Sadly for me, this cutscene continued to play regardless. I had informed my parents of what happened and what I should do. They didn't ground me for the most part, as they had brushed this off as me not knowing it was fake, which is honestly pretty true. But I was glad to hear that. But I wound up having to save up for a new Wii in the process. So there's my story. I know it sounds pretty far-fetched for a silly anti-piracy screen, but that's why I shared the screenshots for y'all to look at. Do I plan on getting another copy of Skyward Sword? Probably, but not for a while, as I'm still recovering. Thanks for listening to those who did happen to click on this post. Andrew Davis.